Good morning again. Wasn't that an uplifting program, especially to hear from those young people who did such a great job? In any event, I'm delighted that we are going to be hosting the United Nations World Environment Day activities and mark June 5th, because that is a day that will be important in this process, because there are lots of things that will take place that day. Let me just say a brief word before we open it up further about our statehood trip to New Hampshire, which will take place tomorrow. I am absolutely excited to be going to Concord, New Hampshire for a trip. We'll be there just for the day to testify before the New Hampshire House of Representatives in support of H.R. 26. The resolution would put the New Hampshire House on the record as being in support of statehood for the District of Columbia. In fact, it would make New Hampshire the very first state whose legislature has supported D.C. Statehood. Obviously, the resolution comes at an important time for the district and for our country. After 2 centuries, there are signs that Congress is making is actually waking up and taking on the troublesome issues that surround the mistreatment and disenfranchisement of people who live in the District of Columbia. I want to thank Congresswoman Norton for her work on our behalf, our Council of the District of Columbia, D.C. Vote, those who are statehood advocates, and we hope those will be growing numbers of people, and of course the arrests of the D.C. 41 and other individuals. And I was proud to be a part of the D.C. 41. I want to thank House Oversight Committee Darrell Issa and others who've taken notice that the district suffers because of its independence on congressional action. Before we can do almost anything on budget, our laws, and sometimes our operations, we must receive congressional approval, and I think that's known to virtually everybody who is in this room. And again, I'm pleased that this fight to secure full representation has reached its way to New Hampshire. Some of you will remember that we went there about 3 years ago, but that was focused on getting a vote in Congress. The issue is much broader for us at this point. Of course, we want to vote in Congress, but at the same time, we want to be able to control our own budget. We want to be able to approve our own laws, and we want to be able to have the same rights and privileges as the other 50 states. I want to thank New Hampshire Representative Cindy Rosenwald, who introduced H.R. 26 as an act of solidarity and once again demonstrates the leadership that New Hampshire has historically provided in our nation on issues such as this. New Hampshire is the first destination in this process. New Hampshire's history of electoral and political activism is well known and is embodied in their motto, live free or die. The district must be set free from congressional interference, and there is no better place to start a national campaign to get state legislatures across the United States to adopt similar resolutions than, of course, in New Hampshire. There will be a majority of the council who will be going to New Hampshire, including the chairman of the council, Kwame Brown, Councilmember Michael Brown, and also at-large Councilmember David Catania, who has a very strong and long relationship with Representative Rosenwald and has worked with them as well to get this legislation introduced. So again, with that said, we're going to be going tomorrow, and we'll be happy to answer questions before, but even more so afterwards in terms of what the experience involved. And we'll open it up to any questions you may have.
On that subject, Mr. Mayor, there's all this discussion about funds, et cetera. Who is paying for the trip?
In my case, my office is paying for the trip. You have to ask the council members who's paying for theirs. I think some people, I don't know. I don't even want to venture into that because it would be speculative, and I think I'll stay away from speculation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You grew up in the city, so you've been thinking about this issue a long time. For people in New Hampshire or any other state who don't have to actually think about this unless they choose to, how do you convince them to make it a priority in that case?
Well, I think you have to talk about the fact that you talk about the rights that people, in the 50 states enjoy. Frankly, when I've had conversations, and I've had many about people, many people don't know what the condition of democracy is in the District of Columbia. And many of them are shocked when they find out that we can't even approve our own budget, or we can't approve our own laws, or that we have a representative in the House of Representatives that cannot vote, that we have no senators. People are very uninformed about this issue, Tom, and I think one of the jobs we have is to do more, to be able to educate them, because I think at the end of the day, many people who, when they learn of our plight here, will get on board in helping us to change it.
Mayor, given your relationship with the Occupy protesters, how do you feel about some of them going up to New Hampshire as well to testify if they could?
Well, it's a democracy. I think they obviously have stood for more representation. I mean, when you talk about the, as they put it anyway, the 99% who are really at the margins of life in America, we are at the margins of democracy here in the District of Columbia. So they have been in D.C. They've learned what it means to be in D.C., and we welcome their input, and hopefully they can help change some of the minds of people who may have different opinions, or certainly educate those who don't know much about this issue.
Well, is anybody else?
Questions?
All right.
Well, no. I'm rarely trying to be
I'm
polite.
just standing here, Tom, waiting. Would you like me to stand here for an hour?
I had to let the suspense build.
Yeah.
I was hoping somebody else would ask, but I'll ask. These guys left over from the 50 world who've been threatening to recall you and Kwame Brown and until recent events, Harry Thomas, have now filed paperwork and the paperwork, I was told by the Board of Elections, is being delivered to your office this morning if it hasn't already been, to have you recalled and to have an election this fall if they can get the signatures. Part of the process is you'll be asked what's your response to this recall effort. In a short TV version, what's your response to this effort to recall you?
Well, I think you put your finger on it. These are people who were supporters of the previous mayor. And one of them I know was involved in this write-in effort that took place last November 2010. I saw a comment which was in the media. I assume it was accurate, by one of the individuals who said that I hadn't done the job. I'll take that on with anybody. I feel we have done an excellent job with many of the issues in the District of Columbia. You know, look at education. Yeah. You asked.
Don't go through all four.
I'm going to do that, Tom. You asked.
Education is crime. Can I just summarize for you?
Please do. Please stand. Come up here, Tom. That is as good as it gets when you have the media that is so educated on our agenda without you having to even said it. But, you know, in all seriousness, I don't think that there's anybody that can make a credible case in that regard. I think the job is being done well. Wait till the audit comes out in about 3 weeks. Was it February 1st? Wait till they see the fiscal condition of the city.
It's like a $300 million surplus.
I don't know about a $300 million surplus. That's not a number that I have seen. But I think we're going to see a real possibility that we may have had a structurally balanced budget for fiscal year 2011, and that would be phenomenal. I don't know the numbers, I'm guessing, so I can't say that with certainty. We're making progress on the education front. We're getting people back to work. The unemployment rate is down. The barometers that people swear by all are going in the right direction. So if this gentleman who said that I haven't done the job would like to debate whether the job has been done, we'll be happy to speak to that.
You'd have a public debate with Fred Butler?
I said we will be happy to debate that. I'm not going to debate him. Why would anybody give credibility to that, Mark?
What about the overhang of the people, and since I asked the first question, the hang of the investigation that continues? The Thomas thing is now off the table, so is he. But it continues with you and Kwame Brown, and that affects versus to you just out on the street. They want to know what's happening in that investigation.
Well, it's continuing on. Thomas, continuing on. You know, we have indicated every time I've been asked that we've been as cooperative as we've been asked to be with the investigation, and we will continue to do that. and the U.S. Attorney's process is very painstaking, as we know, and we are trying to work with it as best we possibly can. The most important thing is that the city is moving forward. We are working. We're working hard. We've got a great team of people. We just had a cabinet meeting the other day, and I really think it's one of the finest groups of people ever assembled in the city to work on behalf of the people. And I personally would put them up against anybody leading agencies like this, not only in the District of Columbia from the past, but more so from those who lead agencies like this in other places. Bruce?
Mr. Mayor, you spoke out publicly about this young man who was the victim of a robbery and then his shoes were taken. Have you learned any more about this incident, and how prevalent is this in the city from where you stand or sit?
I haven't learned much more about that, Bruce. I spoke out, of course, that how sad and ludicrous it is that someone would take a life over a pair of Nike tennis shoes, and I think it's probably we see it in terms of people being robbed, and it doesn't get the level of visibility that somebody being killed would. But it's not just tennis shoes. We've seen people's jackets taken because of this. North Face jackets were very popular at one point, and we saw young people's jackets being taken. And I spoke out on it because of how sad it is that someone's life would be taken over something that probably had a value of $100 or $150. A life is worth far more than that. In fact, we can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah. Other than speaking out on it, I mean, what, if anything, do you think you can do or needs to be done about this kind of senseless violence?
Well, I think first of all is bring to justice the person who did it. I think people need to recognize there are consequences for this kind of behavior. It will not be taken lightly, and people will be brought to justice to the full limits of the law. And again, when I think you all know that I do monthly a town hall meeting with young people. And one of the things that I try to do in those meetings is talk about the issues that are contemporary to them that affect their lives every day. And this is one of those issues. I talk about it frequently. I want to hear from them, too, about some of the things they think will stem the tide. And I think it's also, I shouldn't even say tide. I don't think that anywhere near a huge percentage of our kids actually engage in this kind of behavior. From what I gather, and I've been out here a long time working with children, that there are a lot of young people, most of our young people, who are law-abiding, who do the right thing every day, and we need to focus on them also. I don't think we should allow the public to believe that lawlessness is what governs the behavior of the kids in the District of Columbia. Mark?
Mayor Gray, can I follow up on the Thomas investigation? It seems to indicate Millicent West, when she was at the trust fund, had some role in this. Have you talked to Director West about this, and what are your thoughts? Does she still enjoy your full faith and confidence? Do you think she did anything wrong?
She says she didn't. So I start with that statement. And we were going to allow the U.S. Attorney's investigation to play out. We asked the Attorney General if he saw any role for his office in this, and he said no. And I think he's right in that the U.S. Attorney's Office would say, look, we're investigating this. We need to be given the full opportunity to be able to continue on with our investigation, and I don't have any doubt that they will.
But if I could follow up, have you talked to Director West personally about this?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
And if you believe what you read in the U.S. Attorney's papers and the Washington Post, if nothing else, there seems to be at least the appearance of an impropriety where she directed Thomas to find another nonprofit rather than the Young Democrats, because she knew that wouldn't look good to send the money to them, to send it to another nonprofit. I mean, just that right there, doesn't that indicate to you that there was at least the appearance of impropriety there?
I think we ought to allow this process to play out, Mark. The U.S. Attorney has indicated that this is an ongoing investigation, and we will look forward to getting the results. Millicent West, she's worked under me as the Director of the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency, and I really think she's done an excellent job in that regard. And I really think it's important to put that on the table as well. It was a different position, of course, that she was in when these allegations, when these issues allegedly occurred.
And I gotta say, we have heard you use the phrase, let the process play out, more than almost any other phrase that you have used in the past several months. And a lot of citizens, a lot of people, when we go out to talk to the people on the street about this, they're tired of hearing that from you.
And the process has played out, hasn't it? Hasn't the issues that we just saw? You know, we live in a democracy. We live in a place where people are innocent until they're proven guilty, and I try to respect that, Mark. I think if I get out here and started talking about some allegations of guilt on the part of Millicent West, that's not fair to her. I think we ought to. The U.S. attorney has indicated there's an ongoing investigation, and I think we ought to respect that process.
Do you know if she's a focus of that investigation?
I don't know. The U.S. attorney has not talked to me about any of this. So, and they won't, of course.
On this, can you update us on the payment Mr. Thomas owed to the district? His $50,000 payment. I'm not sure if the calendar has expired on that today or not, and where that is.
I don't know for sure. I think the best person to ask would be Irv Nathan. I know that at the time that it was due, was the end of the year. It was not paid at that point.
On that same subject, I think the prosecutors talked about the federal violation of not paying federal taxes, filing false federal income tax returns. There obviously are city income tax returns. Is it your concern at all? Have you discussed it with the Office of Tax and Revenue that it ought to see what Mr. Thomas, whether he ever pays a dime or not, owes the city, apart from the kids who got cheated? Does he owe the city money?
Yes, absolutely. We will have those discussions. You know, the Office of Tax and Revenue is within the purview of the Chief Financial Officer, and if OTR has concluded that Mr. Thomas owes money, then Mr. Thomas owes money.
What
would you like to see happen with the Children and Youth Investment Trust Corporation? Chairman Brown came out on Tuesday, said he was outraged, or Friday, said he was outraged, even suggested maybe it should be shut down. Obviously, there's serious lapses in following the money from previous years. What would you like to see happen there?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, many of you may know, we'll be happy to give you the copy of the document that a number of weeks ago, through our Attorney General, we negotiated a new fiduciary agreement with the Children's Trust that imposes additional requirements on them for reporting their activities, which I think, not knowing at the time, certainly goes to some of the issues that we have been talking about. I've also asked the Inspector General to look at the trust from the perspective of its operations, whether it is fulfilling the mission that was set out in the first place. On its face, what the trust was created to do, and that was to be able to provide dollars for after-school programs in a flexible but responsible way. That is a worthy purpose, because children deserve to be served. They deserve to be served quickly. So before we, make a precipitous move to say let's get rid of it, I want to make sure that there is not that it can't be salvaged, and I don't know that that's the case. So I've asked the Inspector General to expedite this so that we get to some conclusions very quickly about the future of the trust. But what that means, of course, is that all of those functions would be pulled back into the government, and sometimes the bureaucracy doesn't move as quickly as its intermediaries possibly can.
Mayor Gray, you just gave a little snapshot of what you think the trust was intended for. Do you think the $100,000+ that Director West authorized to Thomas to use to pay for the inaugural ball that was diverted from apparently a drug treatment, is that a proper use of those monies?
I know what was said, Mark. What has been said is that this was an opportunity to give young people a chance to participate in something that they otherwise might not have a chance to do. That's what's been stated, and I think that all needs to be properly investigated and conclusions drawn from the facts.
If that were, sorry, Tom.
I don't want to get. Wait a minute, Mark. I don't want to get into the speculation game. I want to stay with the facts, and that's what I think people deserve in this.
Right. So if those are the facts, is that a proper use of that money?
Is what a proper use of the money?
To give these kids an opportunity to go to an event that they normally wouldn't have been able to take. Drug prevention money.
I happen to think kids participating in what something was one of the most historic moments in this nation was an important thing to do. But there are other questions associated with it. Was it the right amount of money? What was the money used for? And those are questions I can't answer at this stage.
Mr.
This is
Mayor?
the last question.
Well, this is a bi-weekly press conference. We've been here
Last
10 minutes.
You don't need to ask 10 questions. Last question.
Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
You've been here long, Mr. Sherwood, you've been here much longer than 10 minutes, sir.
Well, maybe 12. The Inspector General. Could you name the last time the Inspector General gave a report on anything? The Inspector General has had a lot of things referred to him in his office. I was just trying to sit here, what did he last report to the people of the city about some wrongdoing that needs to be corrected? I can't think of one, can you?
We get reports. I'll be happy to give you the list of reports that we have, but I think that question is probably put to him. Have you asked Mr. Willoughby that question?
But it sounds authoritative to ask the Inspector General to do something, but I'm not sure what the end is. Maybe someone in the room knows that I don't know.
Well, I can't detail the list of reports that they produced, say, over the last 6 months, but I'm sure that they can.
Well, if you expedite, I don't know what that means to them.
It means make things happen faster. That's what the word expedite means.
Well, I know what I said to them. Any comment on Mr. About how terrible it was to take money out of the hands of kids?
It is terrible. As a matter of fact, one of the things I've done, I've had conversations with a business leader to try to see if we can raise money to go to baseball-related organizations. You know, I assume, because you have a long history here, I assume people know how I felt about earmarks in the first place. I was the one who proposed a set of guidelines around audits, around monitoring, and that was one of the reasons why the trust was involved in the first place, because they had the apparatus to be able to do that on behalf of the city. And I also was the one who said it's time to get rid of earmarks. And one of the things I said at the time, this was a couple of years ago, without having any knowledge of anything, and that was, I said, you know what, the way this thing works, somebody's going to get in trouble at some stage. And I said that at the time, and people know I said it. And now it has happened. I'm glad they are gone, and as long as I'm here, they will never come back.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, you can't blame earmarks for former Councilman Tommy Thomas's behavior, right?
I'm not. I'm saying that the process of giving money the way that is given, and frankly, listen to some of those who didn't get it, and answer their questions of why did this organization get it and that organization not get it. And then when you don't have to do a proposal, or you don't have to do with the rigor that you normally would do in getting money through the public sector, it unfortunately opens the door to abuses of this. And that's what we've seen. We've seen abuses of this, and earmarks need not to come back again. I think the Congress has finally eliminated them. So they need to be gone.
Do you think Mr. Thomas should serve prison time?
That's up to a judge to settle. But I think what's been done here is a reprehensible act. I think it's, you know, spending the public's money the way it was spent is an offense. And I'm assuming that the judge will take all that into consideration.
One more time. I think Mark's question goes to what everybody can't seem to wrap their head around here. We're still talking about the process. It's up to the judge. The guy's already been proven to be a thief and a liar. A lot of people stood by him. He went before the cameras, publicly said, I didn't do it. A lot of people took him at his word. A lot of people in Ward 5 took him at his word. These are people that, you wouldn't be mayor if not for these people in Ward 5. Personally, professionally, how do you feel about what Harry Thomas
I think it was
done?
a reprehensible act, Bruce, and I think it should be punished in the way that these acts are punished through our laws, and that would include prison time.
Thank you all. Just if you didn't get a USB bracelet earlier at the environment, that's where the press releases are for today. We're being green. Also on the USB is a press release about the ending of amnesty for DMV tickets. It ends on January 27th, began on August 1st, and $3 million have been collected. Lucinda Babers is here, director of the DMV, if you have any questions about that. So please remind your viewers and listeners and readers that amnesty ends on January 27th. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up. Somebody left a message at my house wanting to know about the amnesty program as applies to paying your income taxes in the District of Columbia. There is no amnesty program when it comes to paying your income taxes in the District of Columbia. This applies to tickets that are involved with traffic violations, parking violations, right, Lucinda? So those who owe taxes, you still owe taxes. There is no amnesty program associated with paying your taxes.
Have you paid all yours?
Yes. Every year.